Hello, everyone. It's me, President Trump, and I watch TV and I watch a lot of stuff. But I always make sure I tune in to watch the Final Kut Show. It's number one as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so welcome to the Final Kut Show. I don't have a microphone hooked up. I do have a microphone hooked up. I don't have a microphone hooked up to this setup yet. But my other setup was being funky, so I wanted to get the show out by 4:20. Hope you enjoy it. So first off, I want to start things a little differently than your typical talk show. We're going to start off with a band, the Final Kut Band. Check it out. This is called My Corona.
Popped out for a Costco run, for some fun. Doctor found out that I have the corona. Virus is a mystery, no vaccine. Hope I don't pass on my corona. Now I stay inside, quarantine. I don't see anyone but my TV screen. I'ma go going out of my corona. Ooh, thank God for my Zoom account to see my spouse, even though she's in the next room. Corona keeping me in quarantine. It's insane. I don't even have a symptom of corona. No fever or cough. Give it time. 14 days will pass, then I will be fine. I just hope I don't die. Oh no, I have corona. Oh, stay 6 feet away from me. COVID-19. Wash your hands and don't touch your eyes. Corona. Should've bought some shaman stock to make a buck. All the shelves are empty from my corona. Nothing's making sense. What day of the week is it? When it's gonna end? Oh my God, I wanna go outside. But not with corona. My corona.
Our first guest is an actor, comedian, writer, and he's best known for his award-winning impersonation of Donald Trump, John D. Domenico.
Fantastic ratings, like through the roof ratings. Everything's going great with the Kung Flu from Wang Chung. We've got it under control, which is absolutely fantastic. We have such great experts, but we've got me up front and Mike Pence, and he's doing a great job. So this is going to be over very, very soon, and we'll get back to work. That's what we do here in this country. We get back to work. We don't stay at home. But we go back to work.
Is the deadline still May 1st to look to kind of reopen the economy and get things?
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a full rollout, but we can open up some of the smaller towns where people aren't infected. We're going to look at the metrics. And we're going to see where we can get rolling. You know, certain towns are better than other towns. You have a place like Las Vegas, which is like an island. You don't let anybody in. Let things start back up. It'll be incredible. New York's a different story. It's a mess.
Now, are the numbers kind of plateaued in New York, or is it kind of peaked?
From what we have heard, everything is plateaued right now. We did have a bad day, but like the hospitalizations are down, the deaths are down, so things are getting better. We've kind of hit that maximum point, at this point, and we've got the testing going on. You and I talked offline about the Abbott test, which is a great test, 15 minutes. That's all it is, 15 minutes. And little doctors across the country, it's going to take time to manufacture these, but imagine going in a month from now, you got a little fever or something, they run that test, boom, they know right away. And if you have it, you go get, you stay away from people for 14 days. Self-isolate.
Now, is that the test that you took?
That's the second test I took, but both of my tests were negative, incredibly negative, extremely negative. They've never seen negative numbers like my negative numbers. The doctor said that it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. They said it was the most negative score of anyone who's taken the COVID-19 test on the negativity spectrum. No one's even been close to my test.
Now you get the $2+ trillion stimulus bill. People are waiting for their stimulus checks, and there's talk of small businesses also getting some loans, and there might be some bailouts going on across the country. Can you talk a little bit about the stimulus bill and kind of?
Well, we get the PPP, $10,000, and then we get the $10,000 pyramid. If people can get on that, they can get some money. Then we got the disaster loans that are going to go out, and I would like, they want, people want checks, but you know what? I think it'd be quicker if we PayPal people or Venmo or get it out that way. I go right into the bank accounts. I'm a big believer in wiring money to people, except I can't sign my name on that. So that's the only thing, because people want the checks to collect them, but that's okay. But this is $2.2 trillion. This is the biggest stimulus in the history of stimulus, and no one stimulates like my stimulus. Many people said I'm incredibly stimulating with my stimulus, and I think no one's going to argue with the size of my stimulus package. Quite a package, I might add. Quite a package.
Now, how's your wife handling all this? How's First Lady Melania?
She's tremendous. She's such a fantastic First Lady. I'd say, I always say POTUS needs his FLOTUS, and she's doing such a fantastic job. And a lot of people don't know this, but, she's very inventive. She practically invented social distancing. I haven't seen her in months. I mean, talk about social distancing. And she was very smart because she started months and months ago. And you remember, you'd see we'd be landing in like Israel or something. You see her smacking my hand. So smart. She made sure I kept my distance. Good woman. Tremendous.
Now, was Vice President Pence also tested, and his beautiful wife, was she also tested as well?
They were all tested. We meet so many people. You had Boris Johnson, he got it, and the president of Brazil, he got it, and I'm sure other world leaders got it, because we meet so many people. But years and years ago, I used to be a germaphobe. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, you didn't like shaking hands.
I wouldn't shake, babies are like germ machines. I don't know if people know that. They're disgusting. They're really disgusting. And then I had to run for president. People kiss the baby. So I kissed the babies. I shook hands. I don't like shaking hands. So again, way ahead of everyone else on that. Big germaphobe, wiping, you know what I mean? Now people are like, oh, you should shake people. You don't have to worry about wiping everything. Now what are they saying? Don't shake hands. Wipe everything down and keep your distance. Everything I was doing for many, many years.
Another thing that's really important to a lot of people right now is hydroxychloroquine.
Yes.
About it at many of the daily COVID task force press hearings. Wanted to see kind of where we're at with that. I heard there were more.
29 million, actually 30 million doses we have right now. So we can send that around the country. And if a doctor feels that they can prescribe that, it's not going to work for everybody, because you got mild cases, you got moderate cases, you have severe cases, and then you have the cases that'll, that unfortunately people pass. But, with this, it's something else. And then you have the Z-Pack. And this is a very smart virus. There's a very, very smart virus, because they've got these people that it's inside of them. The COVID-19 is inside of them. They're carriers. They're not sick. So they're walking around. This is how smart this thing is. Some people have no symptoms. That's called asymptomatic. It's a medical term. And then you've got other people, mild, moderate, severe, and dead. That, you know what? And that's the worst. The dead one's the worst. So you don't want to get that. But isn't that amazing? You get different levels of this, or you don't have it at all. Very, very smart, this thing, this Chinese flu, which I'm not allowed to say. I'm not allowed to say Chinese. Doesn't makes most sense to me. I'm not being racist or anything. It's like they called the Spanish flu because it was from Spain. All these things are named after where they're from. Everyone's going to take it easy. Just take it easy.
Now, it's China. I mean, are we the most, would you say at this point, Mr. President, that we have done the most tests out of any other nation in the world right now?
As of right now, we've done more testing than any other country in the world, on the planet.
So do you think that holds value in a sense to looking at the numbers from the other countries to where they may or may not know exactly how many cases they have versus here in the United States?
Well, what do you mean? Do you think they have more cases and they're hiding them, or?
Yeah. Do you think there are more cases and they're hiding them? Or
I think there's more cases in China. I think there's more cases in China, because they've got a state-run government over there and state-run media because, half the country could be dead. We wouldn't know it. Other than our iPhones wouldn't be coming over, but other than that, we'd have no idea.
All right. So it's a few days now after Easter. How was your Easter at the White House at the Oval Office this year with the family?
Well, it was, it wasn't as good as past years. We didn't have the guy and the Easter bunny. That was a shame. And by the way, that's a guy. A lot of people thought that was a big rabbit. That's just a guy in a costume, it turns out. But it was, Easter's so important. And that's why I wanted the country open by Easter, because it's, it's resurrection, it's rebirth, it's all those things. And I recently found out that Jesus was Jewish. A lot of people don't talk about that. They don't talk about that. And many, many people have said to me, because, Ivanka converted to Judaism, and Don Jr.'s first wife was Jewish, and Eric's wife is Jewish. And a lot of people, because I love the Jewish people. I moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem because I love the Jewish people so much, and Israel and all that. A lot of people think, my name is Donald J. Trump. They think that J is for Jewish because I love the Jewish people, but it's not. It's not. It's for genius. It's for genius, as it turns out. But it was a great Easter. And, people are so inventive. You've seen drive-in theaters. I know they're not popular anymore, but people had drive-in church services. They drive in church services. That's so incredible. Americans are so resourceful, so inventive, so innovative. I think that was great. Stay in your car. Hear the mass. They put it on the radio or something like that, and you can hear it. And I think that's great. So people have to go to church. They've got to go to church. And the first thing I'm going to do on May 1st, we are going to have a 1 million-person march down, right towards the Capitol. We're going to lock arms, and we're just going to get together. We're going to fight this Kung flu together with a 1 million-person march against this terrible, terrible thing.
Now, Mr. President, if it doesn't go away for any reason, or it comes back maybe next flu season, the coronavirus, is the plan maybe ultimately to have a vaccine? Is it to...
Absolutely. We're working on a vaccine. We're working on different things. You just have to know not just who's infected. Dr. Fauci, my little paisano, he's about this big. He's about that tall. He's a tiny guy. But very smart, very smart. I call him my little paisano. And then Dr. Birx, she's very nice. I call her Dr. Scarf. Dr. Scarf. You notice she always wears a scarf.
On.
What is it? Dr. Scarf. Where's Dr. Scarf? But we got to find out who's infected, who's not infected, and who's immune. Did you already have it? Are you immune? We need to know that. Once we have all that information, it'll be a lot easier. Because then if you're immune right now, you can go out and shop. If you're immune and you're in a restaurant, you can open the restaurant back up, move the tables apart. You know what I mean? We're gonna figure out a way. We always figure out a way because, we're not that far away from the election, and I want the economy roaring as we get closer, because I think you're going to probably ask me about this, but I'm going to jump ahead because that's what I do. Because you're probably going to ask me about Sleepy Joe. And this guy, as you know, is so old, they discontinued his blood type. It's true. If he gets sick, they don't have his blood. He's not going to be able to survive. Who wants that? Like me, I'm going to live forever. Him, he'll probably be dead next week. And he got the big endorsement, who cares, from Bernie Sanders. You know what Bernie tested negative for? The presidency.
Twice. Now, Joe Biden actually also received an endorsement from Barack Obama, I believe.
Who?
Uh, uh,
Who? Oh, big deal. Big deal. Who cares? Who cares? He's got to do that. He's got to do that. Why did he wait? Why did he wait? How come he didn't do that out of the gate? He waited for Bernie to do it first, and to be the last one to endorse him. Okay, I can see I can see it from the marketing standpoint.
Now, how is this election going to take place? I mean, do you think people are going to be, once the economy opens back up, Mr. President, do you think people are still going to be kind of scared to go outside and maybe?
Nope, not Americans. They're going to run outside. I've been told that the parks around the country are full. I don't know if there's social distancing or not, but people are outside. People want to get outside, but people don't want to be inside. Who wants to be inside? It's boring. I want to get outside too. I'd love to play around the golf, but I gotta set a good example.
Well, Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us. We were having another guest on, but obviously, whenever you can grace us with your presence, we'll definitely.
The ratings go through the roof.
Ratings go through the
and
roof.
This will be the most watched Zoom call in the history of Zoom. Believe me. I know Zoom. No one knows Zoom the way I know Zoom. Believe me, you're gonna be overwhelmed. Well,
Mr. President, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing some more COVID-19 task force meetings, and thank you so much for sacrifice and everything you do for this country. And
well, Matt, thank you for getting out there. I love your videos when you're out interviewing people. You're very smart the way you do it. It's great. Keep doing what you're doing. We need you as we get closer to the election and beyond that.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time. Okay, our second guest is an actress, professional dancer, model, choreographer, costume designer, as well as makeup and hairstylist. Recently had a viral video talking about 5G and its relevance and how it correlates to the coronavirus pandemic that's going on right now. This is Krystal Tini. Do you think the coronavirus is being used as a scapegoat for something else that's going on, maybe 5G? And some of the research I've done on 5G was possibly could lower your immune system to make you more susceptible of catching coronavirus or cancer.
And right now, our government is not doing any testing on 5G. There was something in the Senate. There was a little video clip that I saw, and they were asking someone there saying, well, what are the dangers of 5G? And well, we haven't done any research. Okay, well, are you going to do research? No, we're not. So you're going to just blindly put this out and just hope for the best for humanity, basically. Other countries have tested 5G and then banned it. I don't know if it's Switzerland or Sweden. I think it was Switzerland. Mm-hmm. They had 2 towers. They turned them on, and 300 birds fly out of the sky. So where does that play into, yes, let's roll this out. Let's do this because we want faster internet, when we really know it's a lot deeper than that. I mean, they're saying that it's artificial intelligence, and they're using this to, just track people, to be physically tracking people. So, among other things. So that's where a big concern comes in for me. And it's so it's the same symptoms, or can produce the same symptoms as the coronavirus. They're rolling this out at the same time. So if people are getting sick, we blame here instead of blaming here. How do we, it's very hard to make that determination, but just to know that information is out there and that it's a possibility is all that I need to know right now. And hopefully that other people get to know, that there is a really strong possibility that these are linked and not just some conspiracy theory. You have to be able to.
Anytime you question the government, you're a conspiracy theorist. Anytime you question the mainstream media, you're a conspiracy theorist. And I like to tell people, I was a media studies major, which is nothing to brag about, but that's what I got my degree in. And one of the great things I learned was 96% of our media, corporate media, is controlled by 6 corporations. That's kind of powerful. That's kind of powerful. And they definitely do shadow banning. I have problems on Facebook for my posts all the time. Meanwhile, if I see somebody proud of something that goes against, how I feel, but it fits the narrative, they could post that all day.
Right.
So it's definitely a lot of hypocrisy that we see. And so continuing, if everything and Krystal, I don't know if you're looking at May 1st or if you think it's going to be longer or sooner, but if everything's all of a sudden just goes back to normal, they reopen the economy, do you think society is going to return back to normal? Or do you think there's going to be certain liberties that are taken away from us as a society? Are we going to have to comply to this social distancing thing when we go to the park with our kids? What do you think is going to happen? Will people be able to return back to normal after all this fear has been drilled into their head?
Well, that's the thing is, and I also mentioned, so when, the government says, okay, everybody, we're going to open the world back up, and it's just like you're just supposed to believe or imagine that you are completely safe from this. How do you know who's carrying it, who's not carrying it? You really don't. So to just be fooled by the fact that they're saying you have to stay in your house, you're going to get sick, and people are thinking that they're going to get sick and die from this. And from what I've read, 98% recovery rate. So that's a pretty big deal. So if you just want to tell people all of a sudden, like, you're safe, you can go back to your regular life, it's just like, wait a second, like, you scared us half to death, and now because you're saying it's okay, how do you know there aren't so many infected people out there that can then reinfect? So it's just a whole shit show. It really is, because this whole thing just doesn't add up. So I don't think people are ever going to go back to normal, and because of their mental state of where they see this and how afraid people have been this whole time. I mean, a lot of my family won't even go visit other family members, and it just became like, we're afraid of each other, we're afraid of our own people. And it's like, it's very, I mean, it's very sad and depressing to see what has happened and how fast it's happened and how easy it was for that to happen. And I think that it's just one big test to see how well we passed it. And unfortunately, it's looking pretty good for them. So if they want more control and take away more rights, it's not going to be difficult, because there are not enough people speaking out. I think people are finally starting to wake up, at least from my end that I've seen, and the messages that I've gotten from every state and country saying, we're ready to stand up for this. Like, how do we do it? What do we do? So the fact that my video went viral and now I have like this huge platform and, soldier base of people, it just makes me want to further continue with this and find some kind of a solution. And I've had so many people that are just brainiacs that, whether they do podcasts or they create apps or they create whatever it is, they're like, let's do this. So I have been, trying to find a way and solution for, just to get something started. I mean, there's petitions that have been going around and stuff like that. But as far as going back to a normal society, it's like people are just listening to whatever the news is telling them to do. So it's like, well, you have to go back out with the mask, then okay, we'll go out with the mask. The other big thing is these COVID certificates. That's been the latest. And it's like, so I now need a certificate to be welcomed back into society, to say that I am safe to travel, I am safe to live my life normally. And without that, I don't know what the implications are of that. I don't know, but just the fact that there's a beginning stage saying that you need to be, with a little certificate saying that you're safe, and we have to take your blood and we have to give you a vaccine. I mean, that's a whole other thing. I just did a post on that. And
yeah, Bill Gates related.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of saw a lot of people talking about the weird thing is, what's crazy is, and I almost wonder if this is all, and here I'm going to go really conspiracy theorist here, but
go for it.
If everything so we have, your perspective, my perspective, other guests that I have on's perspective, and I think now we don't really know what the hell, who to believe, what their sources are, or where they're getting their information from. We've got the internet, but the internet's censored in the sense,
Exactly.
China does censor their internet, and it seems like we're slowly doing that as well. It just doesn't seem like we woke up to that freedom taken away yet. But if they can just shut down our society so quickly, I wouldn't be surprised if they could, limit our access to internet activity on top of that. And if people think it's crazy, if I told you 4 months ago that there wouldn't be a single casino open in Las Vegas, I would be getting called crazy. So it's definitely crazy times that we're in. You know, and you have a general election this year. You got a lot of state elections as well, counties, and just a lot of stuff going on. And it seems, I can't tell if the left and the right are together on this or pulling away from each other, but it seems like there's a lot of socialism on both sides, which ultimately leads to communism. Because we do have a president that says, well, we'll never be socialist, and the country shut down. And then you got them over there arguing with the House and the Senate, arguing about getting stimulus bills passed, which I'm going to get $1,200 out of all the money they take from me all year anyway back. Like I can live on $1,200 after all this shit. Thank God I'm essential and have a job. But it's really tough time for a lot of people. And I think, you know, on a lot of statistics I've seen, how the hell does the flu deaths go down and heart attack deaths and a lot of these other deaths go down and COVID-19 is going up? I understand car accidents most likely will go down because there's no one on the road right now. It's a great time to have a road Coke. I'm just kidding. But it's definitely, you know, because all the cops now are going to people who are holding masks in the parking lots and arresting people, giving them citations. Arrested a guy playing t-ball with his daughter in the park. And but then you can see, like in New York City, they have the Hasidic community. They're all gathering around for Passover. They're all outside. And the great thing about that is, and what it shows me is, they can't take all of us.
Exactly.
If everyone kind of just gets up in the morning and goes out, mask or no mask, 6 feet or no 6 feet, and just enjoys their lives, which is what pretty sure is what this country was intended for, was to be the freest nation in the world. And in 3 weeks time, I went to get coffee this morning, and I go to the gas station because I'm anti-Starbucks, but I can't self-serve my own coffee. They don't have coffee there anymore. So I had to go to Starbucks, which I hate, and go to the drive-through, but they're still open. I just don't get it. Some of it doesn't. So I can go through a drive-through service at Starbucks, but I can't sit in my car at a church or whatever kind of thing you're trying to do.
They make up these rules as they go along.
Yeah,
as we're now seeing.
It's crazy. And now you're on the East Coast. Are you in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm in Philly.
What's it like out there? Is everything just done, like dead, nothing going on? Because it's a big city.
Right. So luckily, if you can go into a grocery store without having to wait in line outside, that hasn't been taken away. Like my sister's still out in LA, and she's out 8 o'clock in the morning for 45 minutes waiting to get in the store, 6 feet apart, the whole thing. But in Philly, it's just everything's pretty much closed except for like Target is my biggest adventure of the day. Target, grocery stores, gas stations, some Dunkin' Donuts. A lot of the Starbucks are closed.
Fast food restaurants are open, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Great. We can spread cardiovascular disease, which is the number one killer in the fucking world. But we can't. I don't know. Go golfing or go to a library or something.
I'm not a Twitter person. I'm an Instagram person. So you can find me at Krystal Tini, KrystalTini. And I do have a YouTube channel that's also under Krystal Tini. So you can find me there and let's chat.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Krystal.
Thank you.
All right. Our next guest is running for President of the United States. He's a leading Libertarian candidate for President of the United States, activist, author, YouTube sensation on Adam versus the Man, Adam Kokesh. Adam Kokesh. Check it out. Activist, Libertarian, leading presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, joining forces with McAfee as well. Saw that interview as well. Adam Kokesh, welcome to the Final Cut by Cut Productions, and I'm Cut. How's it going?
Outstanding. Thank you so much for having me on today. And yes, very exciting announcement yesterday. Kokesh, McAfee joining forces to end the Fed. This is the new team End the Fed, which is what we've been calling everybody who's engaged with our campaign since the beginning. But now publicly, it's Kokesh, McAfee as a team. And when we say end the Fed, you know that we're talking about ending the whole federal government. And anytime I'm introduced as a presidential candidate, I'm like, hold on a second, before you judge me, as you should.
United States. Sorry.
right. Yeah, because if someone says I'm running for president of the United States, you should be going psychopath, right? And in my case, obviously, with what we're doing, we're talking about taking the ring of power and throwing it directly into the fire, not putting it on. It's technically true that I'm running for president, but it might be more accurate to say that I'm running to turn the election into a referendum on whether or not the federal government should be allowed to exist at all, because my platform is to resign on day one and take it through a peaceful, orderly, responsible bankruptcy process that leaves us with 50 independent states and up to 562 sovereign native nations.
Well, Adam, I've been watching some of your recent videos. Recently, I saw that you took the COVID-19 test. It seems like I don't even know how you got your hands on it. Supposedly we don't have any, but you tell us about that process, how you did that video, and what were the results?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm negative to get the lead out there on this story, and I was really worried. Just to go back, I had a bad case of coronaphobia, and I refer to this as the coronaphobia crisis. Yes, there is a real coronavirus. Yes, it is a real health crisis. Yes, there is a real pandemic, but it is in the scope of human existence. The coronavirus as a whole, COVID-19, it's not significant. You can argue the threshold of significance, but really it's not. 7,500 Americans die every single day in this country. That's the natural turnover when you have a population of 330 million Americans, half of whom are eating themselves to death and dying of obesity and chronic health-related conditions, or smoking themselves to death, right? And
those are all essential businesses right now. McDonald's, tobacco company.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want. By the way, I don't know if you heard the story, but yesterday I found out there was a real corona tragedy. There was a guy skydiving, and his parachute didn't open, and he died of coronavirus. And it's very important that we take this as a reminder to practice appropriate social distancing, and that this disease could strike anyone at any time without warning, and even young people are not immune to its effect. Yeah, obviously, there's this whole manipulation of the statistics, and we don't know how minor of a global health crisis this is. But you look at the death toll, 7,500 every single day. If there's a surge and we get to 1,000 a day for a while, and I don't think that's even the case. We've seen now most recently where anybody who dies of anything that either looks, smells, or feels like coronavirus gets labeled as a coronavirus death. And what you're going to see is that when we untangle all the statistics months from now, that, when coronavirus deaths were at their peak, flu deaths and pneumonia deaths went way down. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You go, yeah, so we're going to be able to untangle this statistically in a few months, when we look back, and there is going to be a consensus that this was all overblown. The main crisis is a crisis of fear and fear-mongering and government manipulation. And so, and media and corporate and medical, yada, yada.
Yeah,
of course, I don't know.
I wanted to kind of segue into this too, and want you to continue on that point. They're reevaluating Jeffrey Epstein's autopsy and come to the conclusion he also died of COVID-19. So that's the official story now from our government. So we now know what happened. Now we know.
Hashtag Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Hashtag it was Corona.
Corona.
That's great.
Corona. JFK. I mean, we can go way back. But
I'll cut to the chase with the test if you want.
Yeah. Tell us about the test.
So my friend Jacob Clark with the Libertarian Party of Kentucky had a connection to one of the test kits that they're using overseas, and it's much more accurate. Do I have it sitting out here? It's a little tester. If you go to my Facebook page, I have the picture of it in my profile holding up my negative test results. By the way, the reason I say I don't want to test negative is that this test better than a lot of the tests that are out there already. And it's so freaking simple. It's a test strip. You prick your finger, you swab, you get a little bit of, yeah, it's exactly like checking your blood sugar in terms of the complexity of the process. Finger prick, and you pull it out and you put it on a test strip and you put a little saline in it so it sends the blood across the test strip as a buffer fluid, and it pushes it across the test strip, and there's 3 lines, and it shows you if you have the active virus, if you have antibodies, or if you're totally negative. And so I wanted your ideal test outcome, hypothetically. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're going to use this as an excuse to take more of your rights away later if you tested positive.
Out of all the tests you've taken in your life, which one were you scared of the results for the most?
Oh, yeah, STD tests are way scarier. Yeah. I'd rather have corona than herpes.
So what do you think's really going? Do you think it's like a scapegoat? Do you think like the coronavirus is like, hey, this is sexy, we're gonna throw this out there and shut everything down because something else is going on? I had a guest earlier talking about 5G towers. Kind of what do you think? I mean, what is your, and this is part of the discussion, it's kind of a COVID-19 based, I think that's everywhere now because you can't get away from it. But what do you think is the real situation happening right now? Viruses never destroyed nations, governments have. That's a good statistic people should look at. So what is your take on all this as far as the reaction?
Yeah, the big question, I don't know if this fully answers your question. So there's so much, it's such an interesting, complex topic, and it's such a beautiful time to be alive, to be able to follow all this in real time on the internet, to live through this. And the big thing that I want to point out is that what they have done is shown that they can command everybody's attention and direct it to one thing. And it's, watch what the left hand is doing so you don't see what the right hand is doing. But even that, it's so out in the open with the stimulus, and I put this in a tweet that went viral now 3-4 weeks ago. They're spending, and this was just in the initial math of the stimulus, where they're spending $2 trillion, population 330 million people. You can do the math. They're going to give you $1,200 each, supposedly. And there's that is a slow motion train wreck. We get to watch the bureaucracy lining up. We're going to give every American $1,200.
Back with their own money.
Yeah. Not only that, but then we're going to spend we're going to spend $6,000 per citizen. That means we're taking on average, and even if you want to say, well, let's engage in this collectivist, we tax people who are productive and give it to everyone evenly. Okay, even if you accept that that's the premise of this form of socialism, you're taking $6,000 for every American and you're giving us back $1,200 each. Why don't you give it all back to us and let us decide how to spend it? Let those government agencies crowdfund if they want to stay in business. Let those big businesses crowdfund if they want to stay in business. If we want to start small businesses, if we want to take care of real human needs with that money, you have to let the people decide how it's spent. And just to see that divide, that contradiction, this breakdown, you go, oh no, this isn't about relief. This is about ripping us off. And the bigger question here, and I want to really focus on this, and again, if you want to go somewhere else with it, your show. But the big question that I'm asking, aside from, how long is this going to last? How much worse is it going to get? Are we going to be able to have an awakening moment, as the curve of anger outpaces the curve of fear of the virus? Is there the question we have to answer first, or at least, it's kind of a premise kind of answer is there a singular global conspiracy, or is this a feeding frenzy of fear? And I don't think there's a singular global conspiracy. I don't think there was a singular cabal of people who really control enough of the world's government saying, okay, the next time we have a bad, funky off-season flu pandemic, we're going to blow it up like crazy, and we're going to do all these things to take advantage of it, and we're going to scare people with hygiene and lockdowns and yada yada. Because if that was the case, you would have more uniform reactions between governments. Right now, we have most of the world doing something like the United States, but then you have some major outliers. Sweden, Germany, Italy, and China obviously represent major contrasts in policy, how they're dealing with this. And Sweden and Germany are the ones I would focus on. Sweden has the most rational approach of, we're going to practice hygiene. We're going to take care of people who need it. We're not going to shut anything down. We're not going to force anything on anybody. And Germany is going with an extreme distancing response, but also a good positive address with testing and tracking. And you know the Germans, they're very industrious, organized people. And the other thing is the Germans are uniquely honest and accurate in their data, and they were the first ones to come out and say the death rate here is 0.3%. Right. If the flu is 0.1, it's 3 times the flu. How much do you freak out about the flu? This much? Well, then make sure you freak out 3 times 0 to freak out about coronavirus. And the fact that we're going to be, in hindsight, we're going to be able to look at all the different governments responding in their own way and being able to weigh them against each other. We're going to be able to see what was the best response. And I guarantee you, Americans are going to be super fucking pissed at the point we realize as a whole that none of this economic shutdown was necessary or even more than marginally helpful.
What kind of things can you see after 9/11? We had liberties taken away from us. What can you see, because they're calling it a pandemic? I've never seen anything like this in my life, to where there's not a casino open here in Nevada. What do you think? What kind of liberties do you think are going to be taken away from the everyday average American?
Well, I mean, it's what's already taken on paper right now under the emergency declarations, state of emergencies, the stay-at-home orders, the state level more than federal level in terms of what's being enforced. I don't think they're going to be able to get much worse than what they're doing now with this excuse, but they can get much worse in terms of being way more widespread. So I want to point out a few highlights that I've been covering on Adam versus the Man recently. You saw the paddleboarding arrest video, right? I hope everybody's seen that. Mm-hmm. Dude paddleboarding off the California coast. They send 2 Coast Guard boats and then police officers to arrest him. He's social distancing, totally physically distant from everybody because the park's closed. They put him in handcuffs and they have guys standing right next to him. And you're just like, this is absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, they had a guy playing t-ball with his 5-year-old daughter was arrested. They brought like 7 cops.
Yep, in a public park. And then you had I think it was yesterday in Santa Cruz, they had 7 dudes who had gone to a liquor store that was open, and they were congregating in the parking lot, and they got $1,000 tickets, each one of them. That kind of shit's just insane. In Georgia, they were harassing churchgoers, and I got to say, this is so cool to see Christians. I mean, who would have predicted that Christians would once again be the vanguard of civil disobedience in America? Like, that's really beautiful to see, that they say, well, you can't gather for church services, and they say, fuck you, it's Easter. Well, most Christians don't say fuck you, but you get
we do. I'm a Christian. I say fuck you all the time.
Christians, really?
Yeah,
we're
all sinners.
Yeah, and you're not all. But it's not sinning to express yourself. It's sinful language, not by the word, but by the usage. If I say fuck you to a tyrant, to render unto Caesar's, that is a very Christian thing to do. If I say fuck you to my brother because I don't like him and I'm being a dick about it, that's not Christian. Obviously, but anyway, to the Christian thing.
Christians that say they don't sin are like hot girls that say they don't shit. It's bullshit.
Yeah. So with that, I'll say thank you for watching this interview. For anybody who's a consumer of independent media, if you made it this far, support Kut with what he's doing. Put your money where your eyes and your ears are, and support independent media. Be part of the active and engaged audience that's necessary to make this possible. And share this video. Do what you can to support the show, even if it's not financially. Support independent media, like with what Kut is doing here. Peace and love, y'all.
All right. Take care. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.